You know, 10 days after a Chinese spy balloon entered American airspace, members of the House and Senate were finally briefed on what happened. That balloon, we know, shot down over the Atlantic Ocean, and then the House voted unanimously to condemn China's balloon surveillance program. The balloon, though, part of a widespread global surveillance program run by the Chinese military, spans 5 continents and more than 40 countries.
Either this was a huge mistake by some entity within the Chinese government, or it was a test of our resolve by Xi. If it was, he got a clear answer.
Well, the U.S. Navy continuing its work off the coast of South Carolina to quickly recover the balloon's debris on the ocean floor. Joining us now to talk about what questions remain, seems like a lot, and what comes next is reporter Doug Luzader for us in Washington, D.C. Doug, good morning. So the House
Good morning.
Voting to condemn the spy program. Can you break that down? What exactly does that do?
Well, not much. I mean, it's kind of a voice of moral outrage, I guess, expressed unanimously by the House. But it is indicative, I think, of the anger here on Capitol Hill. I mean, it isn't often that the House does anything unanimously. And here we had this bipartisan anger over China and the incursion of this balloon over U.S. airspace. So, you know, beyond that, it doesn't really have anything binding to it. It's just kind of a sense of anger expressed by Congress as the administration tries to provide some more information about what they've learned about this balloon.
Okay, and let's talk a little bit about what more we know about the balloon. We do know that they're saying it was capable of collecting intelligence. What else do we know at this point?
Well, you know, not a great deal. They're still in the process of going through what they've recovered and then trying to recover what remains. At this point, it seems as though they've recovered what was floating at the surface, the balloon itself, but much of the balloon's payload may have indeed probably did sink, and that's not going to be so easy to recover because of the wide debris field as a result of that shoot down by an F-22. But they have recovered some electronics, and there were a number of reports yesterday that some of those electronics bear English language markings, which would indicate they may be Western components, which raises, you know, all kinds of questions about how this balloon was put together, where some of the materials were sourced from, and so on. And then there are wider questions about the military's response here and why it was that we're just learning about some of these earlier incursions that took place over U.S. airspace.
You know, on top of all of this, we know U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken had postponed his trip to China when all of this was going down about 6-7 days ago. Do we know what happens now with that trip and what happens with these, you know, U.S.-China relations at this point?
Yeah, the relations are strained, to put it mildly. I mean, this is an idea, though, that the president kind of pushed back on, you know, seemingly indicating that it wasn't going to be that big of a deal in the long term, but it's a pretty big deal now. We're angry at China. China is angry at us, and this, you know, hotline that has been established to allow the top defense officials to talk to one another between the U.S. and China is apparently going unanswered at times, and that's a problem. I mean, that's one of those safeguards against misunderstandings, especially between nuclear powers. So there is a lot of work to do to try to repair this relationship.
Doug Luzader in Washington, D.C. for us this morning. Hopefully we can get to the bottom of this eventually.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.